Good morning. Let's start. So today we'll study pseudo-random numbers and stream ciphers if time permits. And please feel free to ask me questions. All the topic is very simple, so we'll not go into great details. Okay, these are the references, mostly taken from the lecture by lecture from CS 161 California, Berkeley. Please go to the website, and they have written beautiful book also. And also there's a book by Christopher Parr. This is also a lovely book. Okay, all right. Okay, so last class we looked at the importance of randomness. So randomness is very, very important in cryptography. Okay, or even in normal internet communication, right? Because when we generate keys, symmetric encryption, we have generated keys, like Alice sends message to Bob by encrypting the message. So she encrypts using some key. How is this key generated and shared with Bob? Same key, right? Now this should not be predictable, otherwise Mallory in between can predict the key and can decrypt. The complete theory of cryptography is based on the concept that we've studied earlier as well, that the key is the most important thing, not the encryption algorithm. Encryption algorithm has got to be good, but the algorithm is known to everyone. Like encryption function that or libraries, okay, that Alice uses is also available to Mallory. Okay, then key becomes important. Now this key has to be generated in such a way that it's impossible for Mallory to guess it. Or if it's n-bit key, she will make so many attempts, 2 raised power n attempts to guess the key, which is, if n is large, say 256 or so, it's impossible for anybody to guess the key, or even sequentially try the key and try to break encrypted message, right? That's one thing that we have seen. Then we have seen random IV, nonce, and sometimes we use unique identifiers. Okay, if attacker can predict the random number like key, then things can fail. All right. Okay, and then we have seen that entropy, use the word entropy to mean that level of or measure of uncertainty. Higher the entropy, uncertainty or unpredictable, more unpredictable are the outcomes. Okay, all right. So high entropy is now desired in cryptography. All right, then we have seen that entropy is high if we take up some entropy from the sources which are inherently random in nature, right? For example, you take up the heat generated by your laptop, or you take some other things, like some from digital circuits you take some parameter, okay, which can be random, right? Or you flip a coin 100 times and generated sequence, if it's a one side you take it 0, other side 1, and then randomly generate 100 bits. Now this 100-bit long sequence is impossible for anybody to predict. But how do you do? The question is that in real life we can do these things, okay, but in computers, how do you generate flipping of coin, and every outcome of the coin has to be equally probable? It's not easy. Okay, it's not possible, right? Okay, so true randomness is very difficult to generate in computer, because computers by itself is based on determinism, right? Every whatever you do, for example, whatever program you write, if the inputs are the same, output has to be the same, otherwise the whole theory of computation will go for toss. All right, from this we find out that any machine, there is some sources of randomness, like unpredictable circuit on CPU, human activity measured in fine time scales, semiconductor noises, clock jitter, temperature, and all that is a true random sources. The outcome is random in nature. Okay. Okay, all right. And these are actually very expensive and slow to generate. You know, if you look at any one of these clock jitter, etc., how do you measure it? You'll have to measure it and store it and use it. You know, so it's very expensive and slow to generate. But you know, in normal practice, when you use random numbers in cryptography and when we send messages and crypto coins, etc., then these numbers are to be generated at a very fast speed. Okay, so if you always use these true sources of randomness, then it is your whole algorithm will be very slow. Okay, so what we do is that we use instead pseudo random numbers. Pseudo random numbers are the numbers which looks like random to outsiders, but there is a deterministic method of generating them. Okay, all right. So the whole algorithm, as you know, that in computer there can't be anything that is non-deterministic. So whatever algorithm you write to pseudo number generator has to be deterministic, but the input to that can be a true random number, and then based on that true random number, which is very expensive, you can do it once, but generate a sequence of random numbers. Okay, all right, any question? Right, so if Mallory looks from outside, you know, random numbers that's coming out of a stream, she cannot predict what is a basic number, basic source. Okay, or two random number generator. If she knows a two random number that is used as a seed or input, then she can also predict what is going to be next random number, because algorithms anyway deterministic. Got it? Any question? No? Shall we move ahead? All right. So pseudo means fake, of course, right? So pseudo random number generators are they are deterministic sequence with repeat period, but with appearance of randomness. So when Mallory sees from outside these numbers, pseudo random numbers, then she cannot make out this pseudo random number were different from actual random numbers. Okay, but the way we generate these pseudo random numbers are deterministic in nature because there is algorithm. All right. Sometimes we call them as a DRBG, deterministic random bit generators. Okay. Okay. Of course, in order to generate pseudo random numbers, we use two sources of random number, which you call is TRNGs, the two random number generator. So take two random number generator, you know, whatever it could be, noise in a circuit or whatever. Okay, and take input from that, and from that you generate a large number of pseudo random numbers. All right, so there's a concept, but this whole method is deterministic nature because algorithmic. So now this point is very important. An attacker like Mallory, who cannot see internal state of pseudo random generator, you know, the output, whatever she looks at it, is computationally indistinguishable from two random numbers. She can't distinguish between two random numbers and pseudo random numbers if she looks from outside, provided she doesn't know any internal state of the system, okay, or the algorithm. Okay, so all right, so we can visualize this is, we look at, you know, this is a program, pseudo random number generator, which is deterministic in nature because it's a program. Okay, input to this is a seed, and seed is true random number. It comes from two random number generator. Okay, and from that you generate a large number of random numbers. Okay, this is one random number, and from then it will generate another random number, third random number, and so on. so on, right? And after some time you again give input to the system some aspect of seed. It's not that seed is used only once, periodically you have to reseed it. Okay, we call it reseeding, and then this way we continue. All right, so the concept is as follows: you start with a seed, you initialize it, because seed could be of any size. Okay, you initialize it to right size that you want. Okay, n bits for example. Okay, all right, then you have an state. Okay, you put that into after doing the processing, you put this in a register for example, and we call it state. Okay, and then update it. Okay, from the state you update it, and then using if next function you generate a random number. Okay, all right, so basically you start with state, you initialize it, and then use create an state, and from the state you know update that. It means that from initial one you just do something, some updation or some modification you do, and then use the next function, which is a one-way function, okay, to generate a random number. Now when we say one way, like hash, right, you cannot looking at this random number. If Mallory looks at the random number, let's assume a random number 1 is generated, looking at 1 because it's available to Mallory for example, she cannot find out what is inside, what is this state. Okay, all right, so these are these are basically, this is in this way we generate random number. Okay, now again, so basically now one random number is generated. Okay, or then we can, all right, then state changes. Okay, we update the state and then use this state and to update it further and create next random number and so on. Okay, so now one important property is that it should be impossible to predict future random numbers by looking at the present random. If I look at this random number, if Mallory looks at this random number, she cannot predict the future random numbers, right? So that is the property. Now we should do something here and here such that these from this number, previous random number, I cannot predict the future random, and also vice versa. Looking at the future number, I should not be able to predict the previous random number. So these are the two properties. Okay. So what we do, pseudo random number takes n bit seed as input, and we can always prove that n is large enough such that this Mallory cannot guess it. Okay, within limitation of time and computation. Okay, now from this initial seed, if we generate only few random numbers, then our algorithm is inefficient. So what we do is that take initial seed and then generate as many pseudo random numbers possible as needed. Okay, so to achieve this, we'll have to maintain some internal state and update the state anytime random number generates new bit or receives seed as input. Okay, so maintain an state and keep updating these states. Okay, and then from based on that state, use some function to generate random number, and whenever reseed is available, or then use that. All right, so basically algorithm will have 3 parts: initial seed. Okay, from that you generate n bit, first initial n bit number. Okay, and then based on that you generate random numbers, pseudo random numbers, and then after some time you reseed it, because new some more randomness, true randomness available, reseed it, and then you from that you generate a sequence of random numbers, pseudo random numbers. Okay, and repeat the process. All right, so now you can do this in many ways. First important thing is initialize the whole system. Okay, then from that generate a random number, store that in state, use some functions to generate a random number, okay, pseudo random number, and then after some time, once you have taken out certain number of random numbers from that state, reseed it with new and reseed it with some inputs like which is two random number, and then generate set of another random numbers. Okay, all right. So it has to be deterministic. Now it's counterintuitive. The algorithm is deterministic. Using the same seed twice, it should produce the same sequence of random numbers. That's the property, because algorithm has to do that. Okay, now this is, we'll see that this property is also needed. So given a seed at the source and also given the seed at destination, so let's say Alice for example and Bob, they should generate same set of keys. So this will be used for encrypting and other for decrypting. It's also, I mean, we'll study something called stream ciphers. In that we'll use this concept. Okay, so algorithm is deterministic. What is non-deterministic here, or what is too random, is nothing but seed. Okay, initial seed and reseeds. Now second thing is that it has to be efficient, it has to be fast. Otherwise all these things, why you are doing random number generator, pseudo random number generator? Otherwise we can just take pure randomness or true randomness and use it. Okay, and important point is security is indistinguishability from random. From outside person, or say Mallory, she should not be able to make out that something that's going on is truly random numbers or pseudo random numbers. All right, so two important properties: forward secrecy and backward secrecy. Forward secrecy says that if some state is compromised, this state, suppose Mallory comes to know about this state, she should not be able to predict previous random number, previous pseudo random number, or previous state for that matter. Okay, from future state, future, basically we can say that if number pseudo random number is generated, is here, from this pseudo random number generator, pseudo random number, say pseudo random number 2, we should not be predict the previous pseudo random number, say PRN1. Okay, this one property. Second property is that from suppose Mallory comes to know this state, or okay, compromise, which is compromised, or comes to know a pseudo random number. From that she should not be able to predict the next pseudo random number. Okay, because this state may be visible, or corresponding to this pseudo random number is visible. From this, can she predict? If she can predict next pseudo random number, then she has won the game. Okay, so both properties are needed: forward secrecy and backward secrecy. Of course, it's a counterintuitive name, so why should we call it forward and backward, but let's not get into it. So this isn't backward secrecy, also called future secrecy in some papers. Okay, any question up to this point? Are you able to understand what is pseudo random numbers and why do we need it? Anyone? Okay, let me ask this question to Sagnik Sen. Sagnik Sen, can you summarize what I have described so far about pseudo random numbers? Hello. Okay, next is Shalu. Shalu, are you there? This interesting. It means that you switched on your mobile and then doing something else. Shalu, are you there? This is interesting. Vidula Anand. This so if you just need monologue, I can give you my recorded lectures. Anyone? Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah.
can you please discuss? There is little problem with the assignment 2 also. I have mailed you also last day.
Yeah. Right now, I am asking something else.
Yes, sir. Uh, should I explain?
Yeah. So that's fine. So why people don't answer when I ask questions? You know, so many people have, like Shalu, etc., have not answered. I mean, are they not available, or their headphone is not working?
Maybe sir,
Probability of
washroom या पानी पीने गए होंगे.
ऐसा नहीं होता. ऐसा होना नहीं चाहिए. What the hell I am doing then, right?
No, sir, most of the students are here. They are listening to you.
Yeah, I've asked so many people. Vidula Anand, are you there?
Yes, sir.
So why didn't you say yes when I asked you a question?
Sir, my mic wasn't working. I
See, don't
disconnected
say
and
that.
again.
Probability of mic failing is less than 1 in 1 million.
So because I was connected with Bluetooth headphones and it wasn't working that time.
Ma'am, nothing of that happens.
No,
Okay,
sir, I now
probability.
disconnected the Bluetooth and I'm talking to you right now.
Okay, did you understand what has been taught so far?
Yes, sir.
Why do you need pseudo random numbers? See, one thing I'm requesting all of you, if you one thing you can learn in life, that is to concentrate in whatever you're doing. You'll be extremely successful. Okay, you have 1 hour, whatever, 15 minutes, just focus. When you're playing, just focus. When you're watching movie, just focus and be there. When you're meditating, just be there. Don't think of something else, right? That's called mindfulness, right? You just be. When you're eating, just eat. Don't think of movies then. Right now, you're supposed to be attentive in the class. Just try to be attentive, na? As much as. See, what all you can do is just focus on what is being taught. That's it. There's no point checking your WhatsApp or going to Facebook or all that. It's meaningless. Just focus, okay?
Yes, sir.
Nothing else is expected out of you. Just focus in the class. What is being taught? Just be alive. Okay, all right. Let's go ahead. Okay, so this point we have already seen that we need to seed and reseed. And whenever the entropy is available, a seed is available, we'll use that. Like we can mix entropy from many sources and then mix them and then use them in. So this becomes uniformly random key or two random number. Of course, we'll have to do something before after mixing to bring it to right size, and from that we generate pseudo random numbers. Okay, and if is random number pseudo random numbers go wrong, then companies can lose a lot of money, like it happened to Casino in St. Louis. Okay, so St. Louis Casino, if you go to US, you'll find one Atlantic City, and there are hundreds of now casinos, and of course there are casinos in what is that place? I have never been there, Las Vegas. Okay, you would have heard of these, right? So now when you play, this coin game wherein you pull the lever and then, if you put in 10 cents, then either it absorbs or it gives you some money back, right? So now pseudo random number, some players could predict, right, that you pull the lever only after some delay, then you will get the coins. Okay, so now if it means that now pseudo random numbers were not generated properly in casino in St. Louis, and so they could lose a lot of money, while there are other places like Las Vegas casinos, they could not be broken because pseudo random number generator was better. Okay, all right. Okay, so randomness is not easy to generate, hence we use pseudo random numbers. All right, so please go through this. In Linux, you will find Cha-Cha 20 Steam ciphers, and Mac OS you will find SHA-1 based hash function that's used for PRNG. Okay, so look at briefly about one such pseudo random number generator, which we call as HMAC, deterministic random bit generator, DRBG. Now, why we are bringing in HMAC here? So basic idea is that use HMAC as pseudo randomness. What is HMAC? We have seen MAC, right? Okay, it uses hash. What is the property of hash? If you change one bit, the output changes in almost like 50% bits. Okay, one bit change affects large number of bits in output. So it brings in a lot of randomness. That's the reason given one input is hash is very difficult to predict. Now, can we use this property? Okay, now note that this is HMAC is not just plain hash. HashMAC, it means that there is a concept of key. Once there is a concept of key, it has to be used on something. Okay, some message or data. Okay, on which you create output, right? So now we call this is pseudo random number. Okay, use the key as what? As a two random number possibly, or something from two random number, and then message could be anything. Okay, so use this concept. All right, so now it has two, as we mentioned, there are two important values that we need key and the message. We call it K, and other we call it is V. K and V. Okay, all right. So now HMAC DRBG computes HMAC on previous block of PRNG output. Now we have also studied that we have many states, and then we can take out from that pseudo random numbers, right? Okay, so now we can use this output also as an input, all right, to generate next pseudo random number. All right, okay, so now let's look at the algorithm. Now truly random number bits we represent as S. Now this is okay. So we initially thought we'll use K as truly random number, but let's not use K and V. K is key, V is message. something. Okay, initially we can assume k is 0 or v is also 0 and s is 2 random number bits. So what we can do is that let's generate the initial value of k using hmac of k. K is initially 0 and then we take this as a message which is a v concatenated with 0 0 concatenated with 2 random number, right? And you get from this k. Okay, now generate v using hmac of k and v. V initial value is 0. Okay, and then you get initial values of k and v and just repeat this with you now change this value to 1 and then use true random number. So you get k and v. So this way you initialize it. All right. Okay. So you get after this process a true random number. Okay. Now we can repeat this thing, right? So we can reseed it with additional entropy and repeat this process. All right. So algorithmically we can write it this way. Initial output is 0 or empty string. Okay, and now we need to generate output or first random number which is of size n bits. So you can do this loop. Okay, when length of the output is less than n, then v is equal to hmac of k and v. Take initial value of key and v. Okay, and which we have got it from here, and then in this way we generate a random number of size n. Okay, so what call hmac repeatedly to generate random looking output like this. So you get that output, one output. Okay, now from this you generate random number using what we have studied earlier. So k is equal to hmac of k. Okay, and v, and then truly random number with concatenation of string. This use this function and do it twice, and then it means that now you are modifying the state. Okay, why are you modifying it? The output of course is we are taking first time we are taking it from here, but second time when we run it, then this will be the new state and output will come from this out. Then again you will do this function and you take the output. Okay, so we can use this repeatedly. So basically take initial seed s. First you have, okay, generate k and v. Okay, and then generate from here we generate a random looking number. Okay, out this is the first pseudo random number. Okay, and then repeat this process. Okay, so every time you want to generate this, you do this process because hmac will give you output and then change the state. So what are we doing effectively is that start with, we have availability of s, we have availability of v, and we have availability of k. Key initial message, and so this can be assumed to be 0 and this 2 random number. Okay, come out with some state. Okay, from this you use those steps that we have seen to generate first pseudo random number. Okay, use this state that we have initialize it, and then you come to new state. Okay, and then use those steps here to generate second pseudo random number, and so on. All right. Okay, now we can prove that hmac DRBG is secure and it's a rollback resistant. Will you please go through this? All right, any question? What are we trying to do here? We are trying to generate set of pseudo random numbers. And in order to generate pseudo random numbers, we will have to change the internal state. And this internal state change is based on initial two random number, and then we use HMAC function. All right. So next state depends on previous state, and however there is a HMAC function in between. All right, like here that we have seen here. Okay, and from this we add randomness to randomness and generate next state. All right. Okay, please go through it. It's also given in the book. Next thing is that now we have seen block ciphers, right? Block ciphers, what do we assume? There is a message M that is to be split into a number of blocks of fixed sizes, and the last block is padded. But these blocks are available of fixed sizes, and then you encrypt them one by one, right? Using CBC or CTR or whatever block encryption functions. एक मिनट लग जाए अंकुर का. Okay. Now, this may not be, messages are not available always. Okay, what do you get in your Netflix? You have a stream of bits, right? Yeah, bit stream, like a movie, right? Your movie consists of frames, and frame consists of nothing but bits. Everything in computer is nothing but bits, but it's a continuous bits. It's not one message that, like, you know, like your email to be encrypted. This is stream. Data will come in like a movie, you know, until it's over is a stream. So how do we do encryption of that? For that we use something called stream ciphers. So you have a stream of bits, okay, and this is output, encrypted stream, and then you have K here, which is key. Now key is also has to be stream, because you know, see, this stream cipher can be just exclusive OR function, XOR, right? All right. So we can see this as follows: a stream of bits are coming in, a stream of bits are coming out, which is cipher stream. Okay, and a stream of key bits are coming. Now you take one bit here, xi, exclusive OR with ki, and you get yi, which is stream output. Okay, now the question that I am asking you is that how at the other end, when you receive it, will decrypt it? You have to have yi exclusive OR ki will give you xi, right? It means that now you have to have ki in order to get your xi bit. It means that now you have all key bit streams must also be sent to you from source, which is, you know, can you send, if movie is of say 10 GB, are you going to send 10 GBs of key bits also? No. So what you can do is that you can send a key to other end and then use key stream generator to generate same set of keys at the other end. Okay, now if the key is same and algorithm is deterministic, then recipient also will generate same set of key bits. Okay, that's the concept that's shown here, right? So you have stream bits in, like Netflix server is sending stream bits, and they decided that we are going to use key K, which is shared with you at the other end. Okay, this is U here. Okay, now this from this K, key stream generator will generate stream of keys xi to whatever, say xn or whatever, and then this cipher will do whatever, say exclusive or which is simplest function. Okay, and when this comes to you, you also know this key K. From this key K, this algorithm is known. You also generate xi and ki, and from this ki you get xi. All right, what's the issue here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say like if some intermediate hacker is trying to get the data, and if he
Yeah.
has found the enough data, I mean like if he figured the key generator algorithm and he has got the key, then the whole data will be leaked, right?
Of
In this
course,
case.
but that's whole cryptography. The key is to be secret, and key
Yeah.
should be chosen randomly from a big set,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
That's the point.
So, and random thing,
So
like I have a small doubt too.
yeah,
We are generally talking about pseudo random generators and those. Like if we were like it might be depends on the time and many factors, right? How the numbers are generated.
yeah.
Based on if we fed a neural network with all those parameters and the data, and we train the neural network, and then can then if the neural network is able to get the same generator algorithm, so that we can get the same random number data,
See,
can't it be a
generator
threat?
algorithm. Yeah, generator algorithm is known. You're right.
Then
We
like
have Kirchhoff's principle. We know random number. See, this encryption algorithm is known to everyone. Only thing that may differ is key. If somebody in between, if you write a neural network based system that can predict the key, then it's broken.
broke. Okay.
Yeah. So, but how do you predict it?
And we
That's
need
the
to have
question,
enough
because
data. Yeah.
it's again key is randomly taken from very large set.
Hmm.
That's the whole point.
Yes, I got it.
Okay. So now question that we ask is that if somebody can find out the key, then done. Then the whole game is over. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Okay, now we are building stream ciphers with PRNG. That's the reason we have postponed the study of stream cipher till now. Can we use PRNG now to build stream ciphers, right? Okay, all right. So ciphertext, you will use key stream and message. Okay, and we are using simple exclusive OR function. Now key here is a key stream. Okay, all right. So now replace the random with pseudo random here. So we are using here a pseudo random number generator. Okay. So what pseudo random number generator? It takes a short truly random secret and expands into long random looking sequence. Okay. Now this key is there, which is also randomly chosen. Okay. It could be from two random number generator like heat or whatever, which Mallory in between cannot predict, and use this input as pseudo random number generator. Pseudo random number generator, and output can be key stream. At the other end, assuming this Alice, Bob also takes the same key which is sent to Bob. At the other end, we use pseudo random number generator and generate the key stream for decryption. Okay, that's all it's described here. Of course, we are also using here is IV. Okay, so initialization vector and key are the seed of the pseudo random number generator. Okay, using IV and key, we use these two, as an input to pseudo random number generator and output is key stream. Okay, now these two are known only to recipient, like Bob here. Now IV is anyway sent in plain. You know, we have studied earlier that IV goes in plain text, right, to other end. Because when IV is sent, Bob should also know the IV. Okay, so however, this key has to be sent in such a way that it's not visible to anybody else. Okay, now note that we have not handled here the key distribution problem. We say that when you're discussing, when we are using symmetric encryption, same key is available to both ends. Okay, now Bob has to send this key to Alice, like your Netflix server sends the key to you, and from this you and IV, of course, IV is sent, which is visible to anybody. Now you use IV and key together to generate key stream for encryption at sending end and decryption for at receiving end. All right, simple. So what is the property here? Is very fast. Is faster than block ciphers. Where is it used? Wi-Fi, DVDs, RFID, voice over IP. Okay, but these are not provide perfect secrecy, and we have seen that initial ones are broken. Like in case of your Wi-Fi, of course there is no integrity here because symmetric key encryption does not give you integrity, but it's broken in WEP. You know, if you have a box which is almost like 7-8 years old Wi-Fi router, this mechanism is broken. Okay, so that uses RC for stream cipher with 20 bit of initialization and IV 24 bit of IV and 40 bit of key. And now key size is very small, so it could be, you know, people could predict it using some methods. Okay, so it's all broken. And then the next version came, you know, like what we use in 802.11, which is Ethernet version, Wi-Fi version of Ethernet. Okay, in that it also uses RC4, but the size is different. Key size is different, right? So it uses 128 bit key and 48 with IVs, and AES in CCMP mode. Of course, we are not going to get into details, but people have found that if IV and the key size is small, it can be easily broken. Okay, and many stream cipher attacks happened over the years, like Kindle DRM, or you know, in GSM phones, MIFARE cards, etc., etc. Okay, all right. I was managing a team in Symbian, Nokia, and then that team did this hardware encryption. Right, so some idea about how, you know, this encryption happens. All right, so please go through it. There's some more things. Pseudo random number generator can be done in hardware as well. Okay, so please go through this. All right, so before we close, let's look. Now we have completed symmetric key encryption. Okay, and we can see some issues here, right? So we have seen that is very good, and we use it mostly because it's very fast. It's fast and also secure. But what is the issue? So most of the encryption method we use symmetric key encryption, where the key is the same at sender recipient. The problem is that how do you distribute key? How many number of keys you need? If there are n users talking to each other, we have n into n minus 1 by 2, almost order n square keys we need, right? Okay, And the bigger question is that how do you send these keys over insecure channels? And secondly, there is no protection against Alice and Bob, which is we cannot do non-repudiation. Like if Bob says that I have not received anything from Alice, there is no way to prove it. Hence, we need some other method, right? So now we are looking at the key distribution problem. We'll first solve the key distribution problem. Okay, because this order n square is just too big. Imagine there is a company with 2,000 employees, and each employee wants to communicate with each other, right? So you need 2,000 into 2,000 keys. Assuming that Alice and Bob uses key, one key, and if Bob wants to communicate with Alice, may use another key. All right, or even without that, number is of this order, which is very, very huge. So 4 million keys, how you are going to generate and how you are going to transport? See, earlier times, just roll back 30, 40 years back, you know, if from USA, if they want to send keys from say California to New York, it used to be a truck containing envelopes with key symmetric key returns for each pair of users, right? That used to be a method, but that's not solution now over internet. Okay, so we'll have to come out with some way. Okay, and secondly, of course, we have seen the problem by cheating by Alice and Bob. If Alice does something, okay, suppose Bob cheats Alice, then Alice cannot prove that Bob is cheated because the symmetric encryption assumes that both parties are honest. Okay, and this we call is non-repudiation. Preventing this to happen, this cheating to happen, is non-repudiation. Like, I mean, Bob is a buyer of a car, goes to Alice. Alice is a saleswoman, and buys a very fancy car, wants to buy a fancy car, fills in the form. And now Alice says that now your car is available. After a few days, Bob says, who asked you? I never told you that I want to buy a car. Can she prove it that Bob has asked? If she can prove it, it's non-repudiation. It fulfills non-repudiation property. If not, then it's non-repudiation is not fulfilled, right? So Bob can always cheat in symmetric key cryptography. So what we use now is a symmetric key cryptography, right? And in that, asymmetric cryptography will help us in key exchanges over insecure channel, and secondly, it will give us non-repudiation property. So next few lectures will be on this method, okay, asymmetric key cryptography. And first we will start with key exchange methods, that by Bob and Alice can generate their private key and public key. Public key is known to everyone, and then how they can go on from based on this, they can generate a common key, a secret key, right? Like the key cave, right? By doing this, right? So this very interesting way of doing it. So we'll start with this in the next class. Okay, any question?
I have a doubt regarding the quiz one question.
Just hold on.
Huh? Could you please repeat?
Just wait.